The neon lights reflected off the windows of the taxi speeding through Las Vegas at night. Samantha Crane, a 28-year-old dancer at the elite strip club Diamond Crown, adjusted her platinum hair with a familiar gesture as she looked at the casinos and hotels rushing by. 6 years ago, she had come to this city from a small town in Ohio with dreams of fame and fortune. Vegas did not make her a movie star, as she had dreamed, but it gave her another kind of fame. On the stage of the Diamond Crown, Samantha transformed into Crystal, an unattainable goddess shrouded in mystery and desire. Her performances brought the club record revenues and her the attention of wealthy men. Off-stage, Samantha skillfully balanced several wealthy patrons, making the most of her position. Daniel Foster, a 42-year-old real estate developer, was one of the most generous. Married to the heiress of a hotel empire, he possessed the kind of confidence that only comes with money and power. To Samantha, he was predictable: expensive gifts, luxury suites, and an insatiable need for reassurance of his attractiveness. Their relationship had been going on for a year, dangerously long, in Samantha's opinion. Jason Reed, the 35-year-old owner of the Diamond Crown, represented a different category of risk. Technically, he was her boss, but their relationship had long since crossed the professional line. A former bookmaker who had made his fortune on illegal bets, he now laundered money through legitimate businesses. Jason was dangerous because of his unpredictability and his connections to the Vegas underworld, but that was exactly what attracted Samantha. Martin Velez, a 31-year-old professional poker player, was perhaps the only one for whom Samantha felt something close to real feelings. Charismatic, sharp-witted, and naturally magnetic, he was known for his victories in major tournaments and his eccentric lifestyle. Their encounters were rare but intense, when Martin came to town between tournaments. Besides these three, there were other men in Samantha's life: a wealthy Texas oil man who visited once a month, a young heir to a pharmaceutical company, a successful lawyer from Los Angeles. They all saw different sides of her, but none of them saw the real Samantha. The only person who knew the real Samantha was Rachel Moore, a 29-year-old social worker who specialized in helping women in the adult entertainment industry. They met when Rachel was conducting a health awareness campaign in Vegas nightclubs. Unlike most people, Rachel saw the dancers not as objects of condemnation, but as women in need of support and respect. Their friendship began with a simple conversation and grew into a deep connection. In the world of Las Vegas's false glamour, Rachel was Samantha's only anchor to reality. They often met at a small 24-hour cafe away from the Strip, where they could talk about life without pretense. "You're the only one who sees me as a person, not a way to make money or have fun," Samantha once said. Rachel just smiled and squeezed her hand. She never judged Samantha's choices, but she always reminded her to take care of herself and her future. It was Rachel who insisted on regular medical checkups, including STD tests. It was she who accompanied Samantha on her last visit to the doctor, after which their lives could never be the same again. Dr. Henderson, an elderly man with kind eyes, looked unusually serious when he invited Samantha into his office. Rachel stayed in the hallway, flipping through a magazine, unaware that in a few minutes she would have to summon all her professional skills to support her friend. "Miss Crane, I need to discuss your test results with you," the doctor began, avoiding looking Samantha directly in the eye. "Your HIV test came back positive." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Samantha froze, unable to comprehend what she had heard. In her imagination, HIV had always been something that happened to other people, drug addicts, reckless teenagers, but not to her, who had always been so careful. "That's impossible," she finally managed to say. "There must be a mistake." Dr. Henderson shook his head as he handed her the test results. "We ran the test twice, Samantha. There's no mistake. I'm very sorry." The next half hour passed in a blur. The doctor talked about modern treatments, the high effectiveness of antiretroviral therapy, the possibility of living a full life with this diagnosis. but all his words bounced off the protective wall of shock behind which Samantha's consciousness was hidden. When she finally came out of the office, Rachel instantly understood everything from her face. Without a word, she hugged her friend and led her out of the clinic to her car. They were silent all the way to Samantha's apartment. Only when they were home, behind closed doors, did Samantha allow herself to cry for the first time since she was a teenager. "What am I going to do now?" she asked through her tears when the first wave of emotions had subsided a little. "My life is over." "That's not true," Rachel said firmly, squeezing her friend's hands. "It's serious, but it's not a death sentence like it used to be. We'll get through this. The main thing now is to start treatment and tell those who may be at risk." The last words made Samantha flinch. The faces of her lovers flashed before her eyes. Daniel with his commanding smile, Jason with his ever-alert gaze, Martin with his sincere laughter, and the rest. How would she tell them? What would this mean for her life, her career, her future? "I can't," she whispered. "It will destroy everything." That evening, alone, Samantha stood at the window of her 17th floor apartment, looking out at the sparkling lights of Las Vegas. The city, built on illusions, seemed the perfect metaphor for her own life. Bright on the outside, but empty on the inside. Today, that illusion had begun to crumble, revealing a frightening reality. On the coffee table lay the HIV information brochures Rachel had brought her and a list of support group contacts. Next to it was her phone with dozens of messages from men craving her attention. Men who could become the next victims or were already infected. Samantha turned away from the window and picked up her phone. Her finger hovered over Daniel's contact. He had planned to have dinner with her tomorrow evening. Should she cancel? Tell him? What about the others? The decision she made in the coming days would determine not only her fate, but the fates of many others. Samantha put her phone down, not ready to make a choice right now. A week had passed since Samantha learned of her diagnosis. 7 days spent in a strange state between reality and denial. The medication prescribed by Dr. Henderson lay untouched in the bathroom, hidden behind her cosmetics. Samantha had put the information brochures Rachel had brought her in the bottom drawer of her bedside table under a stack of magazines. In the mornings, when she woke up, Samantha would forget about her condition for a few blissful seconds, and then reality would hit her with renewed force. At such moments, she would curl up in bed and allow herself a brief, silent bout of despair. But then she would get up, apply flawless makeup, and go out into the world wearing the mask she had learned to wear over the years. Rachel called every day, insisting on the need to start treatment and inform her partners about the diagnosis. Samantha responded evasively, promising to think about it and decide everything soon. In fact, she had no intention of changing anything. Samantha convinced herself that if she didn't think about the disease, it was as if it didn't exist. It was just a mistake in the tests, a misunderstanding that would soon be resolved. "You can't run away from reality forever," Rachel told her during their meeting in a cafe, away from prying eyes. "This isn't just about you. There are other people involved." "I know," Samantha replied, avoiding her friend's gaze. "I just need time." But she didn't have time. Her meeting with Daniel Foster was scheduled for that same evening in a suite at the Venetian Hotel. Samantha almost canceled it, but the thought of losing a stable source of income and patronage caused her even more fear than the thought of spreading the virus. "I'll be careful," she told herself, ignoring the voice of her conscience. Daniel greeted her as usual. Champagne, an expensive dinner, a box of jewelry casually tossed on the bed. At 42, he maintained an athletic figure thanks to a personal trainer and a strict diet. Married to a woman from an influential family, he built his real estate empire with the calculation of a chess player, thinking through every move. "You seem distant today," he remarked, watching Samantha thoughtfully twirl a glass in her hands. "Problems?" "Just tired," she lied, forcing herself to smile. It's been a tough week." Daniel didn't ask any further questions. He had never been interested in her problems. For him, Samantha was an escape from the obligations and responsibilities of real life. Today she was grateful for his egocentricity, which allowed her to avoid uncomfortable questions. Intimate closeness with him now caused Samantha an internal struggle. She insisted on using protection, which puzzled Daniel but did not provoke resistance. "It minimizes the risk," she told herself, justifying her silence, but deep down, she knew she was deceiving not only him, but also herself. The next evening, Samantha returned to work at the Diamond Crown. Putting on the persona of Crystal, her stage alter ego, she felt a strange alienation, as if she were watching herself from the outside. The music, the men's glances, the routine that had previously given her a sense of control now seemed like part of some surreal dream. Jason Reed noticed the change. The club owner had an animalistic intuition for any changes that could affect his business. "What's going on with you?" he asked when Samantha came into his backstage office after the show. "You were moving like a robot." "Clients pay for fantasy, not a mechanical show." Samantha shrugged, avoiding his piercing gaze. "Bad mood. It happens to everyone." Jason moved closer, his face softening for a moment. "If you have problems that are affecting your work, I need to know." Samantha detected not concern in his voice, but a businessman's anxiety about a valuable asset. Jason always viewed people as resources and relationships as transactions. Their connection was a convenient arrangement. She got a privileged position at the club. He got access to her without commitment or competition from clients. "Everything's fine," Samantha assured him. "I'll be in better shape tomorrow." Jason nodded, but it was clear from his expression that he didn't believe her. A former bookmaker who had made his fortune on his ability to read people, he sensed that she was hiding something. Samantha knew that behind the mask of a successful businessman was a man who could not tolerate betrayal and lies. Leaving Jason's office, Samantha felt her anxiety intensify. Her house of cards was beginning to shake, and she didn't know how to shore it up. The next few days turned into a balancing act. Samantha continued to meet with her lovers, each time promising herself that it would be the last time, that tomorrow she would start treatment and tell them the truth. But tomorrow turned into the day after tomorrow, and then the following week. Daniel didn't notice anything, completely absorbed in his own problems with a new construction project. Jason watched with caution, not interfering, but noting every change. But it was Martin Velez who proved to be the most perceptive. A professional poker player, he had built his career on his ability to notice the slightest changes in his opponent's behavior. When Samantha met him in his suite at the Bellagio, where he had come to participate in a tournament, he instantly sensed a change. "You're not here," he said, as they lay in bed after intimacy, which Samantha had agreed to after much hesitation, insisting on protection again. "Your body is here, but your thoughts are somewhere far away." Samantha remained silent, staring at the ceiling. Of all her men, Martin was the only one who saw her as more than just a beautiful body or a status accessory. Their relationship had never been exclusive. He knew about her other partners, and she understood the nature of his nomadic life. But there was a silent understanding between them, close to genuine affection. "Something happened," he said, not as a question, but as a statement. "Something serious." For a moment, Samantha was ready to open up, to tell him everything. But the fear of losing him, of seeing disgust or accusation in his eyes, stopped her. "Just rethinking some things," she replied evasively. "Thinking about the future." Martin didn't press her, but she could see he wasn't convinced. As someone accustomed to risk, he knew when someone was bluffing. Meanwhile, the changes in Samantha's behavior were becoming more and more noticeable to those around her. She began to miss shifts at the club, citing illness. During performances, she moved stiffly, without her former passion. She began to refuse personal meetings with regular clients, preferring to keep her distance. The other dancers whispered about possible reasons. Some suggested drugs, some suggested pregnancy, and some suggested a new affair. Samantha ignored the rumors, distancing herself more and more from the group. The only island of honesty remained her conversations with Rachel. But even with her, Samantha was not completely honest, hiding the fact that she continued to date men. "Have you started treatment?" Rachel asked during each of their meetings. "Soon," Samantha invariably replied, avoiding her friend's gaze. Rachel, trained to deal with denial and fear as a social worker, tried to get through to her. "Do you realize it's only a matter of time before someone else gets infected? Or has already been infected?" Samantha was silent. This thought haunted her every night as she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. One of her partners could have been the source of her infection, but now she herself had become a potential source for others. The circle was closing, turning into a spiral of destruction. One morning, waking up in a cold sweat after another nightmare, Samantha found a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. It's about your health." The phone fell from her suddenly weakened fingers. The reality she had been so diligently running away from was beginning to catch up with her. That evening, standing in front of the mirror in the Diamond Crown dressing room and getting ready for the performance, Samantha barely recognized her reflection. Beneath the layer of professional makeup was the face of a person driven into a corner. Her eyes, once radiating confidence and seduction, now looked dull and frightened. "How long can I hide this?" she thought, automatically applying glitter to her cheekbones. "What will happen when the truth comes out?" When there was a knock on the dressing room door, Samantha flinched, spilling her liquid eyeshadow. It was the club's security guard, informing her that Jason wanted to see her in his office before the show. In the hallway leading to the owner's office, Samantha seriously considered running away for the first time. Leaving Vegas, disappearing, starting over somewhere where no one knew her name or her story. But there was nowhere to run. The virus would follow her, as would the memory of what she had done. Jason Reed greeted Samantha with unusual tension. His office, usually filled with cigar smoke and jazz music, was unnaturally quiet today. A medical chart lay on the table. "One of our client's lawyers called today," Jason said without preamble. "Some guy claims he contracted HIV after contact with you." The room seemed to spin around Samantha. Her worst nightmare was becoming reality. "This must be some kind of mistake," she muttered, feeling her skin grow cold. "I hope so," Jason replied, watching her reaction closely. "Because if it's not, we're all in deep shit. Do you understand what this means for the club? For my business?" His voice remained calm, but Samantha detected a dangerous undertone. Jason Reed did not forgive anything that could harm his interests. "I don't know anything about that," Samantha lied, trying to maintain her composure. "Who is this man?" "Gary Thompson. He says he's met with you several times in recent months." Samantha remembered him. A middle-aged man, a financial analyst from San Francisco who regularly visited Vegas, one of her occasional lovers who wasn't part of her inner circle. "He's threatening a lawsuit," Jason continued, "and a public scandal." "What should I do?" Samantha asked, feeling panic tighten her throat. "First, get tested," Jason said, sliding a business card for a medical center toward her. "Tomorrow, and pray that this guy is wrong." Leaving Jason's office, Samantha canceled her performance and drove home, ignoring dozens of calls and messages. In her apartment, she finally opened that mysterious morning message. It was from another casual partner of hers, who reported that he had just received a positive HIV test result, and Samantha was the only person he had had unprotected contact with in the last year. The realization that two men now knew about her infection overwhelmed her with panic. She called Rachel, but she didn't answer. Left alone with her thoughts, Samantha took out the package of antiretroviral drugs she had kept untouched all this time for the first time. With trembling hands, she swallowed the pills, realizing that she had started treatment too late to prevent what had already happened. The next day was the beginning of a real nightmare. Daniel Foster called, his voice filled with rage. "How could you?" His usually confident voice broke. "I just got back from the doctor, HIV positive, and you're the only one who could have infected me." Samantha was speechless. In just 2 days, 3 men had learned of their status and linked it to her. "I'll destroy you," Daniel promised. "Can you imagine what will happen if my wife finds out? What if it leaks to the press?" Daniel's threats were just the beginning. By evening, Samantha's answering machine had 5 messages with curses and threats from different men. Some promised revenge, some promised lawsuits, and some promised public humiliation. A basket of dead roses appeared on her doorstep with a note: "You deserve the same." A police patrol car drove past her house twice that day. Someone had filed a report. In desperation, Samantha called Rachel, who came over immediately. Seeing her friend's condition, she canceled all her appointments and stayed with her. "How many are there?" Rachel asked, when Samantha told her what had happened. "3 contacted me directly, but I think there are more. They communicate with each other," Samantha replied, burying her head in her hands. "I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to leave the apartment." Rachel, maintaining the professional calm of a social worker, immediately moved on to practical steps. "First, you need to consult with a lawyer who specializes in such cases," she said, writing something down in her notebook. "And we need to make sure you're safe. Some of these men can be really dangerous." "Jason knows," Samantha said, "and he's furious. He says it could ruin his business." "What about Martin?" Rachel asked. She knew about Samantha's feelings for the professional player. "I don't know yet. He hasn't called, but—" Samantha fell silent, staring at her phone, which began to vibrate again with an incoming call. Martin's name appeared on the screen. Samantha answered, putting Rachel on speakerphone. "We need to talk." Martin's voice sounded hollow. "I just got my results." "Martin, Samantha began, but he interrupted her. "Not on the phone. I'm at your door. Open up." Rachel shook her head in warning, but Samantha was already heading for the door. Martin looked paler than usual, his characteristic poker player's smirk gone. His eyes, accustomed to reading the slightest changes in his opponent's behavior, were now trying to penetrate Samantha's soul. "Did you know?" he asked without preamble. Samantha nodded, unable to lie to him. The tears she had been holding back all day finally broke through. Unlike the others, Martin didn't yell or threaten. He walked into the living room, where he saw Rachel, nodded to her, and sat down across from Samantha. "When did you find out about your diagnosis?" 2 weeks ago, Samantha replied, wiping away her tears. "And you continued to see me and others, knowing you could infect us?" Samantha didn't answer. The answer was obvious. Martin exhaled slowly, trying to control his anger. His reaction was the least aggressive of all, but no less devastating. "I always thought there was something special between us," he said quietly. "Turns out I was just another pawn in your game." He stood up and headed for the door, but stopped and turned around. "Daniel Foster says he's going to sue. Jason Reed said you're fired and that you're no longer welcome at his club. Gary Thompson is threatening to tell his wife and go to the police. And that's just the beginning, Samantha. There are 7 of them. 7 men who are now angry and in pain." Samantha looked up at him. 7? "Yes. We've set up a group chat. We share information, results, action plans," Martin said coldly, as if discussing a business strategy. "You have no idea what you've brought upon yourself." After Martin left, silence fell over the apartment. Rachel held her friend's hand tightly. 7, Samantha whispered. "I infected 7 people. We don't know for sure if one of them was the source of your infection," Rachel remarked. "But now is not the time for that. We need to think about your safety. These people are very angry, and some of them may be dangerous." That same evening, while Rachel was out briefly to get some groceries, the doorbell rang. Looking through the peephole, Samantha saw a delivery man with a bouquet of flowers. She opened the door slightly, keeping it on the chain. "Delivery for Samantha Crane," said the young man, handing her an arrangement of white lilies. Taking the bouquet, Samantha closed the door and read the card. "Some mistakes cannot be corrected. Some crimes deserve punishment." The flowers fell from her hands, and nausea rose in her throat. White lilies are flowers traditionally brought to funerals. For the next few days, Samantha hardly left her apartment. Rachel insisted that she move in with her, but Samantha refused, afraid of endangering the only person close to her. Instead, she installed additional locks and an alarm system. The threatening calls and messages continued. A small article appeared in the local newspaper about a dancer who deliberately infected clients with a deadly disease. No names were mentioned, but anyone who was aware of the situation could guess who it was about. Internet forums were filled with discussions and speculation. Someone posted her photo on the Beware HIV Positive website. Rumors circulated at the Diamond Crown Club, fueled by Jason, who made unambiguous hints about the reason for Samantha's dismissal. Samantha's credit card was blocked. Someone had accessed her data and emptied her account. She couldn't even go to the police, fearing that there might already be reports against her. Martin called several times, his tone softened, but Samantha didn't answer, not ready to talk to him again. One evening, on her way back from the doctor, Samantha noticed that a black SUV with tinted windows was following her. The car was slowly driving parallel to her on the street, clearly not by accident. In a panic, she ran, turned into an alley, and hid in a 24-hour store, waiting for the car to pass. That same day, she found an envelope with no return address in her mailbox. Inside was a piece of paper with the words, "You know what you did. Now you'll pay for it." Her paranoia grew. Every sound outside her window, every stranger on the street caused Samantha to panic. She stopped answering calls, even from Rachel, fearing that her phone was being tapped. Samantha hid pepper spray and a knife in her dresser drawers, afraid that someone might break into her apartment. The only way out seemed to be to flee the city, but that required money, which she didn't have. Samantha began packing her things, planning to sell the jewelry Daniel had given her to buy a one-way ticket to anywhere, just to get away from Vegas. Finally deciding to call Rachel from a payphone, Samantha heard the concern in her voice. "Where are you? I've been calling you all week." "I'm sorry. I couldn't. I think I'm being followed. I'm scared, Rachel. One of them wants to hurt me." "You have to go to the police," Rachel insisted. "Threats are a crime, regardless of what happened." "No, I can't. They could arrest me for intentionally spreading HIV. I need to leave town." "Where will you go? How will you support yourself?" Rachel's voice sounded alarmed. "Come stay with me. I'll help you figure things out." Samantha agreed to meet Rachel at her apartment the next day. After hanging up, she felt like she was being watched. Turning around, she saw a familiar black SUV parked across the street. At that moment, Samantha realized that she wouldn't live to see the next day if she stayed alone in her apartment. In the darkness of the night, she packed the essentials into a small bag and called a taxi. A few hours before dawn, Samantha Crane left her apartment, planning never to return. Monday morning at the Desert Oasis Motel on the outskirts of Las Vegas began with the screams of a maid. In room 217, paid for in cash under the name Jane Smith, the body of a young woman was discovered. The manager called the police, and within 20 minutes, the motel grounds were cordoned off. Detective Alex Connor, a 40-year-old veteran of the Las Vegas Police Department's Homicide Division, was one of the first to arrive on the scene. Connor was renowned for his methodical approach and his ability to see what others missed. 20 years of working in a city where the glitz of casinos and hotels hid the darkest sides of human nature had taught him not to be surprised by anything. But what he saw in the motel room made even him freeze in the doorway for a second. The woman lay on the bed, her arms and legs tied to the headboard, her eyes open in a frozen expression of horror. But the most shocking thing was the piece of paper sticking out of her mouth. a note with a single word printed in capital letters. Punished. Time of death? Connor asked the medical examiner who was examining the body. Preliminarily between midnight and 2 in the morning, he replied. Cause of death is strangulation. The marks on the neck indicate the use of a thin cord or wire. Connor glanced around the room. No obvious signs of a struggle. Her belongings neatly folded on a chair, her bag untouched. On the bedside table was a packet of pills, which the detective carefully placed in an evidence bag. Identity established? Samantha Crane, 28, replied the forensic scientist, examining the driver's license from the victim's bag. Local address? Worked as a dancer? Connor nodded, making notes in his notebook. He had to figure out who had decided to punish the young woman in such a cruel way and why. The detective's first stop was the victim's apartment. The door was locked, but inside was chaos, clear signs of a hasty escape. In the trash can, Connor found several threatening notes and a bouquet of funeral lilies. Someone was clearly stalking Samantha, and she knew it. After talking to the neighbors, the detective learned that Samantha had left the apartment in the middle of the night a few days ago, and before that had led a reclusive lifestyle, hardly ever leaving the house. The next stop in the investigation was the Diamond Crown nightclub. Jason Reed, the owner, greeted the detective with undisguised irritation. Samantha doesn't work here anymore, he said, tapping his fingers nervously on the table. I fired her 2 weeks ago. For what reason? Connor asked. Jason paused, clearly weighing his words. Let's just say she became a threat to the reputation of the establishment. Further conversation revealed that Samantha had been fired after Jason learned of her HIV-positive status and a complaint from one of the customers. Did she infect him? Connor clarified. Not just him, Jason replied. As far as I know, at least 7. That was the first lead. 7 potential suspects, united by a common tragedy and a possible motive for revenge. Rachel Moore, a social worker and friend of Samantha's, was shocked by the news of her death. Through her tears, she told Connor about Samantha's diagnosis, her denial and fear, and her decision not to tell her partners. She was supposed to meet me that day, Rachel said. She was going to leave town, start over. Did she say which of the men had threatened her? She didn't give any specific names, but she said there were 7 of them. They knew each other, and they communicated in a group chat. One of them had been following her, a black SUV. Connor wrote down this information. The black SUV could be an important piece of evidence if it could be linked to one of the suspects. The detective spent the next few days compiling a list of men who had had intimate relationships with Samantha. This proved difficult. Many did not want to disclose their HIV status and their connection to the deceased. But gradually, the picture began to come together. Daniel Foster, a 42-year-old real estate developer, was the first person Connor questioned. During their meeting at Daniel's office, the detective noticed his nervousness and suppressed anger. Yes, I knew Samantha, Foster admitted after several evasive answers. And yes, I got infected from her. It ruined my life. Where were you on the night of her murder? Connor asked. At home with my wife. She can confirm that, Daniel replied. Look, I hated that woman for what she did, but I would never. Do you have a black SUV? The detective interrupted him. Daniel paled noticeably. Yes, a Range Rover, but I wasn't following her, if that's what you're asking. Connor made a note. Foster's alibi needed to be checked, as did his movements in the days leading up to the murder. Martin Velez, a professional poker player, was more forthcoming. He made no secret of his relationship with Samantha or the fact that he was infected. I was angry, of course, he said when he met Connor in the lobby of the Bellagio Hotel. But most of all, I was disappointed. I thought we had something special. Did you threaten her? No. I wanted to talk, to understand why she did it. But after our last meeting, she stopped answering my calls. Martin told him about the group chat that the infected men had created, confirming Rachel's words. He provided the detective with screenshots of the correspondence, where some participants expressed extreme hatred for Samantha and a desire to punish her. One message in particular caught Connor's attention. "She deserves to die for what she did to us. Someone needs to teach her a lesson." The author was a user with the nickname Justice77. "Who is that?" Connor asked, pointing to the message. "I don't know his real name," Martin replied. "He was the last one to join the chat. He said he was also infected by Samantha. He was the most aggressive of them all." This could be an important lead. Connor requested the account owner's details from the messenger operator. Jason Reed was also part of the infected group, although he initially tried to hide it. During the second interrogation, he admitted that he had been intimate with Samantha, but insisted that he was at the club on the night of the murder, which was confirmed by surveillance camera footage. The crime lab provided new evidence. Particles of skin were found under the victim's fingernails, indicating a struggle before death. There were marks on her wrists from handcuffs, not ropes, as originally assumed. There was a significant concentration of sleeping pills in her blood, which explained the lack of obvious signs of a struggle in the room. Connor pieced together a preliminary picture of the crime. The killer, probably someone Samantha knew, gave her sleeping pills, waited for them to take effect, then tied her up and strangled her. The crime was premeditated, not impulsive. Checking the guest list at the Desert Oasis Motel, the detective discovered that the day before the murder, a man had stayed there, paying in cash and providing a driver's license in the name of John Smith, obviously fake. The description given by the administrator was too general. A middle-aged man of average build, wearing a dark jacket and baseball cap, deliberately hiding his face from the cameras. Another important discovery was information from the taxi driver who took Samantha to the motel on that fateful night. He recalled that throughout the trip, they were followed by a black SUV, which parked nearby when they reached their destination. Reviewing traffic camera footage confirmed the presence of a vehicle matching the description on the taxi's route. The license plates had been deliberately splattered with mud, indicating a deliberate attempt to conceal the driver's identity. Connor expanded the circle of suspects to include all 7 men who had been infected by Samantha. In addition to Daniel, Jason, and Martin, who were already known, there were Gary Thompson, a 45-year-old financial analyst from San Francisco, married with children; Michael Edwards, a 39-year-old Texas oilman who regularly visited Vegas; Kevin Riley, a 28-year-old heir to a pharmaceutical company; Alan Prescott, a 36-year-old lawyer from Los Angeles. Interrogations revealed that they all had a motive, but most had alibis for the night of the murder. The only one whose alibi was questionable was Thompson, who claimed to have spent the evening alone at the hotel bar, which was difficult to verify. The technical department identified the owner of the Justice77 account. It turned out to be the 8th man who was not on the original list, Eric Schwartz, a 41-year-old former police officer who had been fired for abuse of authority. He was now working for a private security firm. The detective was unable to contact him. According to the company, Schwartz took a vacation immediately after Samantha's murder and was not in touch. A search of Schwartz's home uncovered printouts about Samantha, photos of her apartment and the club where she worked, and detailed records of her movements. His car, a black Chevrolet Tahoe, was missing from the garage. Empty sleeping pill packaging was found in the trash can, the same brand that was found in the victim's blood. Looking through Schwartz's history, Connor discovered that he had been treated for depression after his wife's death 3 years ago. On Samantha's social media, the detective found several messages from Schwartz dated earlier this year, expressing admiration and suggestions to meet. She apparently agreed. The picture began to come together. Eric Schwartz was apparently one of Samantha's casual partners who had contracted HIV. With his experience in law enforcement and access to equipment through a security firm, he had the skills to plan and carry out the crime without leaving any obvious clues. Detective Connor requested an arrest warrant for Schwartz and sent an alert about his car to all patrol officers in Las Vegas and neighboring cities. The hunt was on for a man who had decided he had the right to dispense his own justice. 3 days of searching for Eric Schwartz had yielded no results. Detective Connor had barely left the station, coordinating the search teams and analyzing the information coming in. The suspect's black Chevrolet Tahoe was found abandoned in the parking lot of the Las Vegas bus station. Gloves with traces of blood were found inside the vehicle, which, as later confirmed by forensic analysis, belonged to Samantha Crane. The breakthrough in the case came unexpectedly. Martin Velez, a professional poker player and one of the infected men, contacted Connor. "Schwartz wrote in our chat," Martin reported, "the first message since his disappearance. The message was concise. Justice has prevailed. She paid for all of us." Connor immediately requested the location data of the device from which the message was sent from the communications operator. The signal came from a motel on the outskirts of Reno, a 4-hour drive from Las Vegas. The arrest team found Schwartz in his room, sitting on the bed with a gun in his hands. He did not resist arrest and looked almost relieved when the officers handcuffed him. In the Las Vegas Police Department interrogation room, Eric Schwartz sat with the unnatural calm of a man who had made his choice. "I know why you're here," he said when Connor entered. "I'm ready to make a full confession." Schwartz spoke methodically, almost detachedly, as if he were talking about someone else. He had met Samantha 6 months ago at a club. Their relationship had been short but intense. For Schwartz, a widower still grieving the death of his wife, Samantha had been a glimmer of hope for a new life. "I fell in love," he said with a bitter smile. "For the first time since Linda died, I felt something. And then I found out about the diagnosis." After testing positive for HIV, Schwartz tried to contact Samantha, but she ignored his calls. Using his skills as a former police officer, he began to follow her and discovered other men in her life. Creating a group chat was his idea, a way to bring the victims together and plan revenge. "At first, I just wanted to scare her," Schwartz continued, "to make her understand what she had done to us. But the more I learned about her indifference to our lives, the more my rage grew." On the night of the murder, Schwartz followed Samantha to the motel. Introducing himself as a security guard and showing a fake ID, he gained access to the neighboring room. Then he waited for her in the hallway as she returned from the reception desk. "I said I wanted to talk, that I understood her fear." Schwartz's voice trembled. "She let me in and accepted the glass of water I offered her. She didn't know there was sleeping pills in it." The rest of his confession matched the crime scene reconstruction by investigators. When Samantha lost consciousness, Schwartz tied her up, waited for her to wake up, and strangled her after reading out the verdict on behalf of all those infected. "I wanted her to understand why she was dying," he said. "I wanted her to feel the helplessness that we all feel when living with this diagnosis." Schwartz placed the note "punished" in his victim's mouth as a symbol. Samantha's voice, her lies, and her silence were the cause of the tragedy. According to him, none of the other men knew about his plans or participated in the murder. Connor watched Schwartz with professional detachment, noting his lack of remorse. Before him was a man convinced of his righteousness, of the justice of his act of revenge. Further investigation confirmed Schwartz's testimony. None of the other 6 men were directly involved in the murder, although their aggressive messages in the group chat could be construed as incitement. The motel provided surveillance camera footage showing Schwartz entering Samantha's room and then leaving it 3 hours later. There was enough evidence to charge him with first-degree murder. However, the case proved to be legally complex. Schwartz's lawyer insisted on a reduced charge, arguing that Samantha's actions in deliberately spreading HIV were a serious crime that caused severe emotional distress, leading to a temporary clouding of judgment. The prosecution, on the other hand, pointed to the methodical and planned nature of the murder, which ruled out the possibility of a state of effect. The investigation also revealed that Schwartz had been taking antidepressants for some time, but had stopped treatment a month before the murder, which could have affected his mental state. The trial of Eric Schwartz attracted national media attention, raising complex ethical and legal questions about the limits of self-defense and revenge in cases of deliberate infection with deadly diseases. All the participants in the drama were present at the court hearings. Daniel Foster, whose family life was destroyed after his relationship with Samantha was made public. Jason Reed, forced to sell his club due to the scandal and damage to his reputation. Martin Velez, the only one who spoke out in defense of Schwartz, saying that he understands his desperation, although he does not approve of his methods. Rachel Moore, Samantha's best friend, testified with tears in her eyes. She talked about Samantha's fear, her attempts to run away, and the moments of weakness and denial that many people go through after a shocking diagnosis. Rachel blamed herself for not being able to protect her friend, for not insisting more strongly that she go to the police. In his final statement, Schwartz was succinct. "I'm not proud of what I did, but I don't regret it. She took our future away. I took her life. The court will decide whose crime is more serious." After a week of deliberations, the jury found Eric Schwartz guilty of second-degree murder, rejecting the charge of premeditated murder, but also disagreeing with the defense's claim of acting in the heat of passion. The judge sentenced him to 25 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. After the sentencing, Detective Connor met with Rachel at a cafe near the courthouse. They drank coffee in silence, digesting the outcome of a case that had exposed the dark side of human nature. "You know what's the most bitter thing?" Rachel finally said. During the investigation, it turned out that Samantha was infected by Jason. He was the one who brought the virus into this chain, and he knew about his status long before she did. Connor paused, thinking about what he had heard. "Are you sure?" "His medical records, which you obtained by warrant, show that he was diagnosed a year before Samantha. He just didn't tell her." Rachel smiled bitterly. "The circle is complete. The victim became the executioner, and the source of all this grief went unpunished. Jason Reed did indeed escape criminal prosecution for intentionally spreading HIV due to a lack of direct evidence of his knowledge of Samantha's infection. He sold his club and left Las Vegas. Daniel Foster divorced and lost control of the part of the business that belonged to his wife's family. Martin Velez continued his career as a professional gambler, but rumor has it that he donated part of his winnings to HIV prevention charities. Rachel Moore left social services and opened a private support center for people diagnosed with HIV, especially women in the entertainment industry. The center was named after Samantha. Connor often thought back to this case. It was different from the usual murders he investigated. There was no clear line between victims and perpetrators, between truth and lies, between justice and retribution. In his final report on the case, he wrote, "Sometimes the most terrible crimes are committed not out of malice, but out of fear, denial, and an inability to face the truth. In the case of Samantha Crane, the killer and the victim switched places, leaving us with the question, who was really punished in this story?" The case was closed, but the questions it raised about moral responsibility, justice, and the limits of human despair remained unanswered.